You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
This is Rod Mahood, your in-game voice of the Niagara IceDogs, and you're listening to the Dog Pound Podcast on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your podcast source for all game analysis, team interviews, and up-to-date news regarding the Niagara IceDogs.
Perlini! Overtime! IceDogs win! They score! Verhage was also jamming away. It's a power play goal for the IceDogs. And they score! Hosang, first goal as an IceDog. Strom stops Shipley. Richie scores! Gets it to Akil Thomas. Thomas has the angle coming in. He scores!
Welcome into another episode of the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara IceDogs, proudly brought to you by Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family in our three great Niagara region locations. Brandon Caputo and Christian Simmons are back with you to break down the IceDogs weekend here after Halloween. We are now in November, believe it or not, for the 25-26 OHL season. Wow, can't believe we're already at this point. It's felt like we just started training camp a few weeks ago, Christian, but here we are again. Make sure to give us a follow on X at Dog Pound Podcast, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network for all of our short reels and content. As well, thank you to those that are watching on the video version on YouTube. Make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, and smash that bell to stay up to date with all of our video coverage. And thank you to those that are dedicated listeners to on all audio podcast platforms. So, Christian, definitely an exciting weekend. We had Halloween on the Friday night. We also had Game 7 of the World Series here in our backyard, Toronto. We had the Bills taking down the Chiefs on Sunday.
Yeah, CBS, actually. I think it was CBS Game of the Week or something like that.
Game of the Week, excuse me.
Yeah.
My boy Matt Ryan was on the panel, so that was the only thing I was excited about. But other than that,
I didn't watch a single snap of the game. You watched the pregame report. That's it.
I watched Matt Ryan on the panel. But other than that, so again, Christian, we're here to break down the IceDogs 1-1 weekend for their two games in the Central Division, and riding the wave is what the episode is called today, because they had a 5-game winning streak come to an end against the North Bay Battalion, but we're going to get into all of that on today's show. We're also going to hear from IceDogs head coach Krys Barch and his wrap-up thoughts on the weekend as well. But a Friday night Halloween, we only get it, once in a while, so it was definitely exciting. We get like no kids at our place, so we end up buying whatever candy we like the most, and then eating it after, because we only get like 5 kids. So I don't know about your neighborhood, but it's a little bit disappointing not to see as many trick-or-treaters anymore.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's the weather. Like, it's the last couple of years now. I don't know what's going on, but it seems to be like a rainy, gloomy Halloween night, which maybe it's the ghosts of the Halloween somewhere behind the scenes. They're pulling strings. They want that gloomy weather for Halloween. But yeah, it was fun for me. I enjoyed it. Had kind of a makeshift costume. You have to kind of do what you can do. I did not go out and buy one, but I was like a SWAT guy. Just put on I had a vest, like a nice little airsoft vest. So that was me. And then day 2, I was a movie director. Had a little turtleneck on and some waspy glasses. So I had fun. Fantastic Halloween weekend. Not a ton of candy for me. I'm trying to stay away from it, but enjoyable nonetheless. And of course, from a sports perspective, a traumatic weekend as well. I didn't get scared like you did, at a haunted house, but I got scared on my couch watching sports this weekend. It was quite the traumatic couple of days as a Toronto sports fan. But before we get to that, what was your costume? Did you have one?
No costume for me this year.
No costume for you, and no
trick-or-treaters. I was the Grinch in Santa clothing as the as the guy that whose baseball team got knocked out by the Blue Jays. So I was watching, but hoping that it didn't go horribly wrong. And, unfortunately, it kind of did in the end for you guys. But.
Yeah, you know what? But you got to have a little bit of a positive outlook here. It's a team that at the start of the season had almost no expectations. So for me, I'm proud. Once I get all the anger out, I've broken some things. I've gotten the pain and anger out of my system. So I think the pride and the sense of accomplishment has started to waft over me, where I feel that immense success, that immense feeling of success, thinking back to, where this team was. And here we go. Anybody watching on the video platform, we're showing it was so close, man. It was so close, that play. I was at that time, I was out at a venue surrounded by people watching that play, and everybody thought the Blue Jays won the World Series. For those of you listening on the audio platform, Brandon just showed me a photo of the play, I believe, in the 9th or the 10th. I think it was runners at the corners. Ground ball hit up the middle. Second baseman snags it, whips it to the plate. And I don't know who the base runner was, but he came in.
IKF.
And he was out by a hair, a sliver, like less than a hair. And, that was, we thought that was it. People were celebrating. I got lifted up in the air. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was like the Lion King, like people were going nuts, and all of a sudden the call comes back, and but you got to feel a sense of accomplishment. They were close. They played a really good Dodgers team right to the wire. They took them to 7 games. They didn't make it easy. What a series, from game 1 to game 7, entertaining baseball. I've never watched a more inspiring set of baseball games. So, for me, I'm just happy that, the Blue Jays went that far, and hopefully in the coming years, it's something to build on. But yeah, a little bit traumatic. I went to the Bills game yesterday. That was a bit of a step in the right direction, helped me cheer up a little bit. As I was checking the live updates for the North Bay. So, that it was a little bit of a mixed emotions all weekend. Halloween was positive. The Blue Jays lost. The Bills won. The IceDogs lost. So it's kind of a teeter-totter this weekend for sports results for me, but nevertheless, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I do feel for Blue Jays Nation as much as I like to give it to them, and they give it to me with the whole Yankees lose thing. So we'll have to wait and see. But it was definitely a great run, and everybody in this area, it was an exciting couple of weeks. So hats off to them for a great season, and we'll see where they go from here. But turning things back to hockey now, Christian, and
yeah.
The IceDogs, as you mentioned, the first 2 periods in North Bay were great, or good enough. It was a 2-2 game going to the third period. And then things sort of went off the rails. And before we get going into the game portion of it, we obviously had the debut of Noah Reed in his IceDogs jersey. So obviously we talked about it last week a little bit with the timelines of everything. We had talked to GM Frankie Vola, and then the trade had come out after the chat. So we didn't really get the full scope of why this trade went down, the timing of it, and everything like that. But Noah Reed comes over from the London Knights, a 3rd-round pick of the Anaheim Ducks, a guy that, you would hope that really adds to what this system is trying to accomplish with Krys Barch and what they're really looking at here. And again, a St. Catharines native coming home, played with the St. Catharines Falcons. We talked all about that last week, but he's gotten into 2 games, and we'll hear Krys Barch talk about him a little bit and what he thought about his 2 games and what they're looking for him going forward. But again, we don't get much practice time and just kind of get thrown into a trade, and you got to move cities. Like, I know he's going back home, but it was still an adjustment period for him. But wearing number 93 now with the Niagara IceDogs. So it was definitely cool to see him in the IceDogs colors once again. Full circle moment for him, winning an OHL championship and a Memorial Cup with London last season. But now with that Anaheim Ducks affiliation to his name coming back home, what were your quick takeaways from what you saw from him the first 2 games?
Yeah, no, I think he brings a lot more speed than I was expecting. A guy that, like you mentioned, in this system is going to do very well. He forechecks hard. He's a smart player too. And I think that's something that, it doesn't show up in the box score, and, it doesn't show up in his point totals, but it does show up on the draft board. It makes sense why he goes in the third round of the NHL draft, because he brings a lot of intelligence to his game. He's a great positional player. And I think he's going to fit very well on that second line. And, we're going to talk a little bit about how the lines are going to get shuffled with this. And, Krys Barch has, input later in his segment. And I think he's going to be a great second line player for this team. That's where I see him right now, as, potentially a second liner, depending on how things work out. With some of those guys in the bottom six, I could see, Monk's making a jump. Galyanov could be on the second line, on occasion. But I do think he slides in well there. But I loved his couple of games, won some faceoffs, had a penalty, but got some shots on goal as well. I think he had a nice start. Like you said, it's going to take time. There's an adjustment period, but I think you can see the potential there of what they're looking to bring in. Somebody that's got the size, got the speed, some two-way hockey, a smart player, somebody that can really help, maybe a Patterson and a Robrick on what we're calling our second line, fill out the 200-foot game. We know Riley Patterson can score. We know Robrick can score as well. You need a guy beside those two players that can do all of the other things around the ice to allow them to be successful. And I think he's going to be a fantastic glue guy for those two players. I could see him being kind of the Robin to the Batman squared of Riley Patterson and Ryan Robrick, to really be, the kind of the guy behind the curtain. I think he could fill that role really nicely on that second unit. And I think we saw a little bit of that over the first two games, but I'm excited for, the future weeks. But I love his start, his debut. I thought it was great.
Yeah, and he'll definitely get more acclimated with a full week of practice with this team this week. So I expect Noah Reid to really be ramped up for these two games against Ottawa and Erie this weekend. So really exciting to see. And for broadcasters around the league, get ready for the Reid and Reid on Niagara, even though one's with an A, one's with an I. But both of them big parts of this team in Noah and Hayden Reid. A little bit I wanted to mention, Christian, I'm going to pull it up on the screen for you guys listening along on the audio version. Our friend Bill Potchers from BPSN had a chance to speak with GM Frankie Vola after the trade had happened, Christian. And
let's see, what do we got here?
We'll take ourselves out for a second. So Here we go. He basically said there's a lot of different factors and things that played into this, but obviously to get a good player, you have to give up a good player. IceDogs general manager Frankie Vola said to Bill Potchers, and there's the college element. That's not the deciding factor of it, but making the decision on moving Brady. He did not ask for a trade. And then bringing in Noah Reid is super exciting to get to come home. He said it was kind of a dream of mine growing up, so should be pretty cool. This kind of caught me by surprise. I was out for lunch and got the call, and it was a surprise, but I'm glad to be coming home to Niagara. Frankie Vola also mentioned, what he thought that Noah Reid can bring to the team. He's the 2007 born player, third round pick of Anaheim, Memorial Cup champion, and played in some big games that mattered and win the experience with the Hunters. Those are the things that checked off the boxes for us. And he plays with the pace, and he plays heavy. He plays a 200-foot game. So there's a ton of things we like about him. So that is what was said from GM Frankie Vola to our colleague Bill Potchers from BPSN. You can go check out the full article there on BPSN, bpsportsniagara.com. But Christian, what are your sort of reactions to what the GM said and sort of, I guess, reiterating what we had said last week when we had initially talked about the trade going down?
I think a lack of surprise with a lot of these messages. For sure, the college thing is a big factor. A guy like Wasselin with probably 1 year. I think that's kind of the consensus. 1 year left here in the OHL. It'd be hard to imagine him, drafted to an NHL team next year. Got a great program in Boston looking for him to come aboard. It's hard to imagine him staying. For us here, for Noah Reid coming the other way, a guy who's got that steep learning curve. He's shown tons of strides over the past couple of years, going from St. Catharines and, the junior B circuit, then up to, the Ontario Hockey League. And then from there to being drafted. It's exciting to see a guy that, just keeps getting better and better. And, for him, nice to come home as well. I know there's a photo circling right now. I don't know if you've seen it, Brandon, or any of our viewers have, of Noah Reid with as a child with a Bones plush doll. So I'm sure for him, it's really exciting. But yeah, to Frank's points, his message, to get a great player, you're going to have to give up another one. And to really even it out, on the draft board, from a value perspective, you have to take all things into consideration. And that includes Brady Wasselin's college commitment. And there's guys that are going to look at this trade and say, you know what, you probably could have got a draft pick back, could have got maybe a second rounder or a first round, potential draft pick, somebody who's going to be drafted coming up, maybe somebody that's even already committed to college themselves. And it's an even 1-for-1, somebody that's going to leave next year as well. And so I can understand, where the critics fall on a trade like this. It's not exactly a direct value for value. It's not 100% a point producer for a point producer, but you have to take all the other values of a guy like Noah Reid into consideration. Like Frank said, plays the 200-foot game. He plays heavy. He fits into this style, this coaching style very well. He's going to bring other pieces to that top six that just aren't there already. So for me, I like the trade the longer I think about it. And I think the Niagara IceDogs organization and the fan base are going to be right there along with me. I can be totally wrong about this, but I'm going to take a shot in the dark and say that come the end of the season, I think Noah Reid's going to be a staple in the top six, a guy that we rely on night in and night out to do some of those little things. And I think a guy like Brady Wasselin, as talented as he is, doesn't go to those areas. He doesn't because that's not his job. That's not his role. It's not his identity. And Noah Reid is entirely in that role. So I think for this team, with the direction they're trying to go and kind of the gaps that they're looking to fill, I think Noah Reid is the perfect filler. So, it's sad, but I think it's going to be a good thing for this team, of course.
Brady Wasselin, I think at the end of the year, will probably have more points than Noah Reid. But again, if Noah Reid is bringing a different type of play style that they really want to implement when they already have sort of a lot of those skilled wingers, we'll see how this trade works out. But I think it works out for both teams. And, one of those 1-for-1 trades without any draft pick compensation that I think both teams are happy with, or they wouldn't have made the trade. So we'll have to wait and see how this progresses, and we'll see how Noah Reid really gets going, gets his feet under him, being a full-time Niagara IceDog. Christian, before we hit the break, I do want to quickly just bring up that Team Red did win their game yesterday in the World U17 Challenge. Ryerson Edgar did not get on the score sheet, but off to a good start there. So the IceDogs 16-year-old coveted rookie is away right now, so that's shuffling up the lines a little bit as well. And head athletic therapist David Pandolfi, shout out to Panda, he's also out there for Team Red as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they fare in the tournament, but good start nonetheless.
Yeah, no, good for him, right? I mean, probably one of the first times he's ever, found himself on the international stage. And I think it's going to be really good for him. We're going to get a player that's coming back with a ton of experience. He's already been incredible, exceptional, from, his, where he was drafted, the stock that he came in with. I don't know that we were expecting a point per game player right away, but that's what we got. And now we're sending him to Nova Scotia to play with some of the best around the world in his age category. I think he's going to bring that experience back, and he's going to play at an entirely different level. So excited for him, of course, for Team Canada to start with an 8-4 victory over Finland. That's great. But for me, I'm going to be a little selfish and say I'm ready for him to come back. We're waiting. We're waiting.
Ryerson Edgar or Panda?
A little bit of both. You miss Panda around the rink too. Come on. He's huge heart. Huge
Absolutely.
Heart.
Big glue guy, David Pandolfi. But
need him.
Regardless of that, we're going to take our quick commercial break on today's show. We're going to come back and we're going to hear from IceDogs head coach Krys Barch and quickly give you our thoughts on the weekend's game. So stay right here. We're right back on the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara IceDogs, proudly brought to you by Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family. We're right back after this.
Did you know that the Global Pet Food stores in the Niagara region are all independently owned by members of the local community? We believe that pets are truly part of the family and are a source of joy in everyday homes around the world. Yet that living, loving experience usually doesn't happen all on its own, but takes extra effort to create and maintain. And we want you to know that the owners and staff at Global Pet Foods are always there to help you keep it going any way we can, because we believe. Proud show sponsor of the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of the Niagara IceDogs. We hope to see you at one of the following locations across Niagara: 3643 Portage Road in Niagara Falls, 160 Highway 20 in Font Hill, as well as 400 Scott Street in St. Catharines. Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family.
Are you currently looking for work in the Niagara region? If so, you owe it to yourself to check out the services provided by the Niagara Employment Help Center, located at 6100 Thoroldstone Road in Niagara Falls. Their many free services include a fully staffed resource area open to the public, resume and cover letter writing, local labor market information, job search strategies, assistance with clarifying employment, training and career goals, employment counseling and job search support, Better Jobs Ontario information, and registration assistance. Check out their website at ehc.on.ca or call 905-358-0021 for more information. The Niagara Employment Help Center, helping people find work since 1983. This Employment Ontario program is funded by the Government of Ontario.
Wild Bill's Auto Repair is your local center for auto maintenance and repair in the Niagara region. Since 2012, Wild Bill's Auto Repair and Body Shop has been helping customers stay safe and confident on the road, knowing their vehicle is in top running condition through the garage's services. Located at 7868 Oakwood Drive in Niagara Falls, the garage started as a tribute to the owner's father, William Robert Hunter, who passed away, continuing the same community spirit and high level of service which customers can expect from him back at Hunter's Auto Repair. Their multi-award-winning auto shop has earned the trust of the Niagara community with its fair treatment of all customers who can feel confident they'll get trustworthy advice and repairs during their visit. Their experienced crew loves meeting new people and looks forward to forming a lasting partnership for the care of your vehicles. To find out more or to book a service, contact them today at 905-358-7868 or wildbillsauto.ca. Wild Bill's Auto Repair, helping customers stay safe and confident on the road since 2012.
J&L Flooring is Niagara's specialty flooring and design company. They take great pride and provide elite customer service and support. With a beautiful showroom, great pricing, and a wide variety of truly unique products, J&L Flooring is your specialty flooring and decor boutique shop. All of their products are environmentally friendly and responsibly produced so you can feel good about your flooring choices. Their goal is to build authentic relationships based on honesty and integrity that they foster with respect and authenticity. Offering a unique and wide range of quality products presented by a knowledgeable and patient team, they simplify the process to make your life easier and to make your home more beautiful. Visit them at 4424 Montrose Road in Niagara Falls or find out more at jnlflooring.com. If you think you can get a better deal anywhere else, you don't know Jack at J&L Flooring.
Hey, it's Ryan Roberg.
This is Ethan Zader.
This is Ivan Galyanov.
This is Kevin Hean.
And this is the
Dog Pound Podcast,
the official podcast of the Niagara IceDogs.
And welcome back to part 2 of today's Dog Pound Podcast episode. Brandon Caputo and Christian Simmons are back with you, continuing to discuss the IceDogs 2-game weekend, 2 Central Division games, Brampton and North Bay. Looking ahead to another week here for the Niagara IceDogs, hitting such a second place in the Eastern Conference, first place in the Central Division. Thank you to those that are tuned in on our video version on YouTube. Make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, smash that bell. And thank you to those that are listening on your favorite on-demand audio platform as well. Give us a follow on X at Dog Pound Podcast for all of our IceDogs updates and on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network. So, Christian, let's jump right into this. Let's go to IceDogs head coach Krys Barch with his wrap-up thoughts on the weekend. We'll come back, discuss that, and get our thoughts on the game. So, as always, Inside the Coaches Room is brought to you by the Niagara Employment Help Center, helping people find work in Niagara since 1983. Check out their up-to-date job board at ehc.on.ca. Here are the IceDogs head coach's thoughts. And we're back on another installment of Inside the Coaches Room with Niagara IceDogs head coach Krys Barch. Coach, 2 games this week, 2 divisional games as well against Brampton and North Bay. 1-1 on the weekend. A 5-game win streak comes to an end. Brampton, you got the nice 4-0 win on Halloween back at home. Things didn't turn your way in North Bay. How would you assess the weekend?
I would look at, you did touch on the 5-game win streak. I think no different than, I guess if you're out living in California, you're riding a wave. Eventually that wave comes to an end. I think a little bit, that came to light this weekend. I felt, we didn't deserve tonight. We got away from what made us successful in regards to process, systems, structure, character, just work away from the puck. And unfortunately, when you don't keep yourself accountable to those elements, you don't keep your teammates accountable to those elements. Eventually that wave dissipates, and then, coming out, of that 5-game win streak, you got to be proud of what we accomplished. But again, there's a reset here. We start, back to work on Tuesday. Everybody gets a good day off, resets in regard to mindsets, and we start preparing for Thursday.
It was a pretty big week on and off the ice for the team coach. A big name in Brady Wasslin is sent to London, and you bring in a local product, Noah Reid, St. Catharines boy, won an OHL championship, a Memorial Cup championship. He's got the experience. He's a third-round pick of the Anaheim Ducks as well, so obviously quite high value from people around the league. So what do you like from Noah Reid, and what did you see through the first 2 games of, maybe not a lot of practice time and things like that, but how do you think he'll progress into his role here with this team?
Yeah, I do agree. There's a lot of systems. We have a lot of details within how we play. Yes, it'll take him some time to learn those, be it face-off plays, even off of lost face-offs, what to do, in each zone, what our mindset and expectations, even our offensive zone system. So, even I look at, if you watch our team a month and a half ago to where we are now, it takes that long to get to that point. And he's going to go through that learning process too. Now he's come from a great organization. I know Mark and Dale Hunter well. I talked to Mark before him coming here. I know their dressing room was very upset with him leaving. I can see why. Our young man is full of character. He's full of compete, exhibits, and contains all the attributes that we value as IceDogs. He's going to bring a great work component to Patterson and Robrick. He's going to be a guy that's fierce and plays with tenacity on the forecheck, that's willing to come back and track on pucks. He's going to make, every foot that you come towards our net difficult to obtain. He's going to be a young man that, is going to pass along a lot of his qualities to the young group as it moves forward. So for me, looking forward to it. It's been a pleasure over the last 2 games, and he's really fit into our group. Seamless, and then also too, I think it's a great element for the community. Probably, for myself, I've got sons, and I'm sure his mom and dad, are ecstatic to have him in the house again, and to be able to watch, hockey games in person, and friends and family being around. It's a nice moment, and probably change of scenery for him.
And a little bit of line shuffling here, Coach, because you didn't have Zada in that first game against Brampton, and with Edgar being away at the World U17s, you sort of have to do some line juggling right now. Hage moved up in the lineup the last little bit. Noah Reid, you're still trying to find a spot for him, and some other guys coming in and out of the lineup and up and down, and maybe Hayden Reed as well with what happened tonight in North Bay. But regardless of that, so how do you sort of juggle that forward line now? Because it is a little bit different of a lineup card than maybe you had even just last week.
Yeah, and when even you try to mention Cole Cooksey,
right.
He's scored some real clutch goals for us. He's a player that we can move around up and down the lineup. Hey, I'd say it's a great dynamic to have. There's a lot of internal competition. There's a lot of internal push. We've got different guys that can step up and contribute on any given night. You have Ethan Zada coming back in the line tonight. Missed a couple of weeks, and I know him. That's difficult to sit up and watch a team. He puts 110% every night he steps on that ice. So from a coach, it's with our forward group, it's a nice luxury to have, and again creates a real nice internal compete element that keeps everybody on their toes.
And then as far as your goaltending with Yermolenko, he got the shutout, his first career shutout against Brampton. I'm sure that was a big moment for that young man. And back tonight here in North Bay has a great first 2 periods. And then, things sort of went off the rails for the entire team in that third period with the 3 quick goals by North Bay. So you went back to Yermolenko in the second game as well. What did you think of his performance and sort of maybe what happened in that third period tonight?
Yeah, you know what? I thought Yermo played, to what we expected. He's shown himself as a top goaltender in the league, young into the season. I'd also say too, a lot of congratulations land on goaltender's shoulders, but also a lot of critique. It's tough. It's a tough position to play because there's nobody else behind you. That gets the blame. But for me, Yermo's been spectacular so far this year. Actually, Robertson's been, both of them have been fantastic. I do look at it that there's, multiple breakdowns in front of him that resulted in goals. We had some outnumbered rushes. We had some grade A scoring opportunities given up where we haven't given them up in the past, or as many like we did this evening. So for me, I'm very satisfied with our goaltending. Actually, very excited with our goaltending tandem. For me, it's more just tightening the bolts in front of them both on just doing what we have to do to transition pucks out of our zone. And if that puck is 60 feet from our zone, then, we've really got nothing to worry about.
IceDogs head coach Krys Barch is with us. Coach, a few more quick ones for you. The North Bay game tonight, it was the first time you played these guys, but they're within your division. So I know that third period got a little bit away from you, and there was a lot of extracurricular stuff both ways and some penalties and some fights and things like that. When you're going to play this team so many more times, what did you think sort of the message was in this game to kind of show that, you're still going to go to battle with the Battalion many more times within the division this season?
Well, yeah, for me, it's number one, players are going to want to play for each other or want to play for each other, which I thought they did this evening. Number two, they're going to do anything in respect to our group, really pushing the limits of who they are as individuals on what they're willing to do to change the momentum of a hockey game. I thought if you did look at that reverse call, we had a lot of physicality, a lot of engagement in compete situations, and we scored a goal as a result of it. So for me, there was some growth there tonight from a different component, from a component of how bad we really want to turn the momentum of the game, which was nice to see. It is a interdivision opponent. We are going to play them a number of times throughout this year. And yes, we are not going to make it easy. We are going to push the limits of who we are and push the limits of who we're playing, a layer and core criteria of our group.
And then lastly for you, Coach, sitting second place in the conference, still first place in the Central Division. I know it's, Barrie, North Bay, they're right there with you, so you can't lose too many games in a row here before they'd be right on your tails again. But what's the message now as you go into another 2-game week and knowing you still have the division lead, but knowing that a lot more work? What's the message right now? Second place in the conference, first place in the division.
To be honest with you, the message will be the same as it's been since the beginning of the year. Control what we have in front of us today. Prepare for what's coming in the future. And if we control that preparation, it allows an opportunity for success. So we don't, change the way we approach our mindset and outlook from what we've been doing over the last month and a half. So there are 68 games in this season. If we're going to start thinking too far ahead or live in the past, we're in some trouble. We just take every day and we grind as hard as we can, and we get out as much as we can, and we keep refining what we want to be as a group, what we want to be as an individual, and what we want to be known as in terms of our systems and how we want to play, and then we get ready for Thursday.
IceDogs head coach Krys Barch, and Inside the Coaches Room. Coach, thanks a lot for the time. Look forward to chatting again following Thursday's game against Ottawa.
Thanks, Brandon.
All right, Christian, we're back after Riding the Wave is the name of this episode, said by Krys Barch himself. The 5-game winning streak comes to an end. Vladislav Yermolenko gets his first career shutout against Brampton. First 2 periods of the North Bay game were very quality, and then things sort of went off the rails with the 4 goals by North Bay in the third and a lot of penalty trouble and things like that. But did you have any quick takeaways from what the IceDogs head coach had to say?
No, I think, what he mentions is, and what he's really trying to emphasize is that this is a long season. One weekend isn't going to make or break anything. Yes, there's some positives. Noah Reed got off to a great start. Yermolenko gets his first shutout. Pieces are starting to come together, and we've seen that over the last couple of weeks. But ride the wave, man. Ride the wave. You have to know how to surf, in hockey. You have to be able to take those hits. You have to be able to, navigate, rough waters and difficult terrain at times. And I think this is going to be one of those weekends where things didn't go according to plan. A Brampton game was great. You find a shutout for a goaltender that's been stellar. He absolutely deserves that. So for Yarmolenko, that's huge, a 4-0 victory. But of course, in North Bay, I think for me, that's really where my focus shifts. The optics for me lay there. A tough stretch in that third period. They give up 5 unanswered goals across the second and the third, so not a great finish to that hockey game. But I think altogether, not a terrible weekend. You go 1 for 1. Could be worse. As we take a look here on the video platform, if you're tuned in. Got a nice tight shot of the box score from North Bay and the IceDogs. 6-2 was the score. The shots for me, what really stands out, especially in that first period. We've talked a lot about starting on time, and, we're not going to go back down that rabbit hole because, we've mentioned it quite a few times, but 6 to 10, the shots in that first period, just not good enough. North Bay gets a great start. They build that momentum, and that carries them through into that second period. They score, I believe it was 2 goals in the second, and they score another 3 in the third. If I'm
1-1 and 4.
1-1 and 4. Yeah, there you go. So, and then that, that last one, that 1 in the second was met by 4 in the third. That was 5 unanswered. Just a block of scoring that the IceDogs couldn't respond to. Another thing for me, the power play wasn't overly successful this weekend either. They were 1 for 6. As we just quickly take a look, I will mention that briefly and we'll move on. Stars of the game, can't really argue with that there. I mean, an all dark green star list. Parker Vaughn, 3 points. Bronson Ride had 2, and then McIver in between the pipes had a great game as well. But for me, Riley Patterson, he gets 2. Seems to be scoring in bunches right now. And, that's fantastic for him, fantastic for us. If that second line can really get going, we've seen the first line be an incredible offensive production, group. If the second line can start doing the same, I think we find a fantastic symmetry across that top 6. But I thought Ryan Roberk had a great game as well. On the power play and off, he had 2 points. He produced. Kevin, he got on the score sheet, and so did Artem Frolov. So, and I will say on the Riley Patterson goal, that first one, I love the play that Frolov made at the point. A little bit of a knuckle puck, just like a slow roller in towards the crease. If anybody saw the goal, it was a D-to-D pass, and Frolov took the space in front of him. And typically a defenseman would make a play with, maybe a little bit more speed or pace to a shot or to a pass. He just floated one in, confused Mike McIver, confused the defenseman. It was kind of like a slow motion play. The puck finds Patterson on the back door and he makes no mistake. So I wanted to mention that. I loved the intelligence Frolov showed there and just the creativity to do something a little bit out of the box. And it worked as Patterson got his first of the night on that goal there. So for me, I mean, the positives are limited. I think Yarmolenko also could have been better in this game. A couple of goals that were not exactly fantastic. Maybe a little bit of a sophomore effect of, after that fantastic shutout performance against Brampton, comes back, maybe a little tired, who knows. But I thought there were a couple ones he could have had back. A goal from the corner that was scored kind of just went straight upstairs. There was a one-timer kind of straightaway center, no screen. Probably could have made a save on that one. But I do think, the team is responsible. Ultimately, you have to put your goaltender in a chance to be successful, and they didn't. They didn't control the puck. They did not break out well. There were no quick exits. There weren't, avenues to pursue. Give North Bay a lot of credit. They played a great hockey game, but I think the IceDogs have, a lot more than what they displayed in North Bay. But yeah, 1-1 on the weekend. Not terrible. It could be worse, but I think, these are kind of the things that you have to iron out. You have to be a defensively responsible team, and you have to start on time. And those are two things that, the IceDogs did not do in North Bay, and it results in a, 6-2 loss.
And especially because when you look at it, North Bay has been challenged to score goals so far this year, and they put up 6 on the IceDogs. again, I don't want to put the blame on fully on Ladislav Yarmolenko, because I don't think the IceDogs played to their identity in this North Bay game. I think especially the first two periods, you saw they scored a two-man advantage goal. Riley Patterson gets a second of the night. They're up 2-1. It seems like they got all the momentum. They're rolling, and they give up a power play goal to the Battalion right after that, or shortly after in the second period, to even things up. And the third period, to me, just again, I think that was a big learning experience for this team. They took a lot of penalties. They gave up those 3 quick goals. Yarmolenko would probably like to have one or two of those back, but again, I just think, as Krys Barch said, they, where was the quote here? They're trying to find it here. I can't even read my own writing, Christian. I do that all the time. Where
there actually was a quote that I remember, though. They like to make it difficult to themselves.
Yes, that's it. Exactly.
Yes.
We're going to make life. We aren't going to make life easy on us and our opponents. So we have to push the limits of what we're willing to do to change the momentum of a hockey game. And that's exactly sort of what I'm talking about there, is that you have a 2-1 lead. It's 2-2 going to the third. You give up 3 quick goals. You get into penalty trouble. Hayden Reed takes that reviewable 5-minute major. Again, hopefully there's no supplemental discipline coming from that. It would be hard to miss Hayden Reed in the lineup without Edgar, and Zada just came back. So you hope that there's nothing with that. And then Kevin, he scores a goal, it's called back. So it's just riding these momentum shifts in the game. And for the IceDogs, this is a North Bay team that you want to put away. I know it was the first time they played them. They're going to play them many more times within the division. But you saw in that third period, and scrums and the fights, and Ray Smith got into it with his former team as well. Like, I think that was sort of setting the tone for what we're going to see with this series going forward with these two teams, because a team under Ryan Houlihan that continues to get better after a rebuilding season last year. They got loads of young talent on this team, and the IceDogs are they can't just expect to go into these games and beat them because they think that they're better than this team on paper, because this North Bay team works hard, and they showed it in this game.
Yeah, no, and I think, to go back to your point about the power plays, like you have to be more disciplined. And a lot of people would look at that 5-goal block where North Bay just continues to score and say, well, they're 2 of them are on the power play, 3 of them are on an even strength. But where does that momentum come from? It comes from those power plays. If you spend a sixth of the hockey game killing a penalty, which is what the IceDogs did. They took 5 penalties. That's 10 minutes of time in a hockey game where you're killing, and a 5 minutes. So even worse, like, you can't do that to yourself, where you're really conceding momentum to a team, and they consistently are given more looks at Yarmolenko. He's working harder. He's getting more tired. It's not a great situation to be in. So for me, I think the discipline is also a big factor as well. So just one more takeaway from what you said, but I totally agree with you. I think just playing a team like that, where maybe they're not necessarily at the top of anybody's boards, but they're coming, and they're really growing. They have a lot of young talent that's looking to take steps. They're a team they're going to show up hungry. They want to win. Nothing's guaranteed. Nothing is given in North Bay, and I think that's why some of those games are typically more difficult than playing a contender, because you got a team that's kind of middle of the pack. They're starting to climb some of the leaderboards, and they're hungry to win. They're very hungry to win. Whereas a team like Kitchener, a team like Windsor, a team like Barrie, and even, to some extent, a team like London or Ottawa, they play good hockey night in, night out, and they expect to get breakout performances from their stars. And, that's what carries them to victory. A team like North Bay coming in, 5th in the Eastern Conference, they're getting a lot of their victories from hard work. They're playing good teams. They're putting out very strong efforts. And I think when you play a team like that, North Bay, Peterborough, Kingston, to name a few, kind of in the middle of the East. And then for West, it would be like the, Flint, Saginaw, and Guelph. When you play those teams that have some of those young talents, but also, an identity, not just, as a young team, but also as a team that's aspiring to, take steps this year to win hockey games. They're coming in, night in, night out, really looking to compete. And I think the IceDogs they did not meet that level of compete in North Bay. And of course, the penalties, the goaltending situation, the travel, there's a lot of factors. Like, it's not a perfect weekend. There's lots of creases in the fold here, but I do think, that's when you want back, especially a conference matchup, with a team that's making strides. They're, only was that 5 points back?
Yep.
You don't give up points easy to a team that's, chasing you in the East. And I think, especially with the goal differential there, that's also a big one. You give up 6 to a team like North Bay, who's, like you said, they have not scored with consistency. They've scored 49 goals this year. That puts them at the, in the bottom half of the Ontario Hockey League. And, you gave them 6. So, I think a couple of things to shake off, but you live and you learn. There's always another week. The OHL keeps moving. We're not going to stay stationary here, back and drive, and hopefully, look forward to a difficult but an enjoyable couple weeks of hockey. This is where we start to see that, schedule really take steps forward. We're going to see Ottawa a couple of times. You see Kitchener coming up later this month. We talked about this last week, but you're going to see Brantford again. You're going to see Barrie again. Like, those are games you have to be ready for. And if you're losing 6-2 to a team like North Bay, those games aren't going to go very well. You can't show up in, Windsor or Kitchener with that kind of effort. You can't give Kitchener 15 minutes on a power play. They'll score 12 goals. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I think, those are kind of some of the wrinkles to iron out, from this weekend, and just really put yourself in a mindset, starting at practice tomorrow, that, we have to be ready. We have to be ready. We got to, get on board, kind of all hands on deck, so to speak, and, be ready for these next couple of weeks. So for me, those are my takeaways. Stay out of penalty trouble. I think Yermolenko had a great weekend. Could have been a little better in North Bay. I think Noah Reid had a great start, but stay out of penalty trouble.
Yeah. There's Vladislav Yermolenko with his first shutout puck after the game on Friday against the Brampton Steelheads. It was funny because they played the Battalion and Brampton this week, and so many times you want to say Brampton Battalion because the two teams were.
Oh, yeah.
So it's the Steelheads and the North Bay Battalion. Nobody picked up, but it came close a few times with them going back to back against these two teams. And I just want to quickly go over the box score in North Bay so I don't miss out, or against Brampton, so I don't miss out on some of the key contributors. Kevin He, Alex Hage, Hayden Reed, and Ryan Roberk all got on the board. Hage got 2 points in his elevated role. It was nice to see Yermolenko pick up an assist as well on the Hayden Reed goal. And Kevin He, as you mentioned earlier, continues to be the catalyst and continues to lead this team as the leader and as an offensive player. So those are some key contributors in that win on Halloween night against the Brampton Steelheads. Almost did it again.
Brampton Battalion.
Oh, I remember the Brampton Battalion. That's
great.
Those are my days, the Cody Hodgsons of the world.
Man, I miss Cody Hodgson. What a player. Great curve.
I'm really aging myself on that one. But
great curve. You know what? Cody Hodgson is from where I'm from, actually. I grew up in Markham, and him and Steven Stamkos used to come home for the winter, or sorry, for the summer. And I remember meeting him outside of an ice cream joint, like 3 blocks away from my house. But I loved Cody Hodgson's curve, man. I love it. He had like that kind of like that narrow toe, no toe on the tape job, little bit hanging off. I was a big fan of his, but I guess I'm a little old too, man. If I know who Cody Hodgson is too, I'm aging myself, man. Come on. But before we forget, I do want to mention, I thought Alexander Hage in that elevated role, he came ready. And that's exciting for, potentially, later, deeper in this season, if the opportunity does present himself, if he has to slide into that top 6, we know he can do it. Playing with Roberk and Patterson, he didn't look out of place. Like you said, he had 2 points, and, this could happen, with consistency. And then of course to have, Judd Noft slide in as well, with a Jacob Monks and a Doherty unit on that fourth line. They looked great. So I think that for me would be, one of my takeaways from this weekend as well, is I did like Alexander Hage in that top 6.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say Alex Hage gets our dog biscuit this week.
I think so. We'll go with him, and then Yermolenko will get the honorable mention for the shutout. He absolutely deserves that. I mean, we've seen him stand on his head for, what is it, maybe a month and a half now of hockey that we've seen this year. And, he's been incredible. So very well deserved, for him. Hopefully, that puck, at some point gets home to Belarus, and his family can enjoy the accomplishment that their young man, or I guess their son, has achieved, and really exciting for him. But I think Alexander Hage, Yermolenko, honorable mention. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, for sure. And Noah Reed, first look at him in the lineup, and Ryerson Edgar being out. So we don't really know what the full lineup's going to look like when everybody's back. We'll have to wait to see that sort of thing happen. Ethan Zada just came back after that small suspension he had. So still trying to work out exactly what Krys Barch's lineup card is going to look like. But again, with a big trade to start off the month of November, the IceDogs have a different look, but they're sitting second in that Eastern Conference right now, first place in the division. But you got to continue to stack wins because those Barrie Colts are coming, and they got Emil Hemming back from the Dallas Stars. So they are.
Yep.
The hashtag giddy up is the Barrie Colts' hashtag, and the IceDogs definitely need to giddy up and start to create some separation between North Bay and Barrie, because those are two teams that look like they're going to be challenging Niagara for that Central Division. Don't give them the crown already in November, but they are the favorites right now. But knowing how well Barrie can play Niagara, it's going to be a tough test this month. They got a lot of big opponents coming up. They got Ottawa this week. Again, tickets available for Thursday's game. Make sure to go down to the Meridian Center. We'll be doing all of our pregame stuff there. It's going to be a fun night down at the Meridian Center on Thursday night. And then they have another geographical rival game against the Erie Otters on Saturday, and Erie sitting dead last in the Western Conference. So to me, the IceDogs need to come away with 3 or 4 points this week to really stabilize and stake that flag to say, hey, this is going to be our division, because we all know Brantford, with the trade they made this week with Oshawa, getting Ben Danford, the Leafs first rounder, like they are the class of the OHL right now. But if the IceDogs want to, say, hey, we think we can go toe to toe with these guys, they need to put that stake and be the Central Division champion. So to me, big week for them coming up for a lot of reasons. Noah Reed getting going, everybody sort of getting back on track after what was sort of a lot of news last week. So I look for this team to get back on track and really, just continue to stack wins. As Krys Barch said, they can control what they can control in front of us. They don't change really anything week to week.
Yeah. Just, 1 week at a time. And this week is, it's a work week. You got, like you said, Ottawa and Erie. Take both of those games, put yourself in a good spot, keep chasing. Brantford, who have yet to lose a game in regulation. So a little bit scary there. But like you said, with Danford, that team just keeps getting better and better. And with Barrie starting to nip at your heels, every game gets that much more important. So, hopefully 2 big wins. I think that Ottawa game is going to be a tough one. That's a team that has not given up a ton of goals this season. If anybody is looking here on the video platform,
that Dave graphic. They got a defensive system.
Great defensive system. They've only given up 37 goals here. Just quickly scanning, that's less than Brantford. They've given up less than Brantford. Actually, the least amount of goals in the Ontario Hockey League to date, with the Kitchener Rangers just ahead of them with 1 more goal against at 38. So, that's a team that's been incredible over the last couple of weeks. They're on the 3-game winning streak. We know that they can score. We know that they can keep the puck out of their net. And for a team that, over the past couple of games, especially the North Bay game did not have a whole lot of offensive production. You're going to have to be ready for that game in Ottawa to really, hopefully put some numbers up on the board. And then when you play Erie, like, you got to win that game. You know what I mean? Like, we dropped 1 to Erie, a couple weeks ago. We got them the second night of the back-to-back, but it can't happen again. When you play a team like Erie, you play a team like Sarnia, you play Sudbury, like, you have to beat those teams. Those are points that are, included in your projections. You know what I mean? The bounces are going to happen. You're going to play Brantford. You're not going to win every time. You're not going to beat Windsor every time, but you better beat Erie every time, because, those are the games that, make all the difference at the end of the year. This league is, such a tight, league in the standings. And you take a look now, I mean, Brantford has, separated themselves a little bit, but Niagara and Ottawa tied at 21 points, and then Barrie behind you at 17. In the West, it's, the top 4 teams are separated by a hair, 1 point, maybe 2 points, further down the list you go. So, every game matters, it really does. And you have to be able to take, games where you can hopefully, take victories, with ease, against a team like Erie. You need 2 points there. So a big week for the Ice Dogs, and hopefully, like you said, Noah Reid gets settled, and, we can really see, what we got, here following this trade, and hopefully a successful week of hockey in Niagara.
For sure. And again, 2 points at the end of the year could mean the difference of you or the Barrie Colts winning the Central Division, right? So
Exactly. That means everything.
Exactly. So the Ice Dogs need to continue to stack wins, and maybe they start another streak this week after a great 5-game winning streak. Came to an end against North Bay. Let's start another one this week here in the Dog Country. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara Ice Dogs, proudly brought to you by Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family of 3 great Niagara region locations. And hopefully after a home victory on Thursday, you can go in Friday and get a free dog treat for your little pup there, courtesy of us here on the Dog Pound Podcast, hopefully when they beat the Ottawa 67s on Thursday night. So for Christian Simmons, my name is Brandon Caputo. That's it. Make sure to give us a follow on X at Dog Pound Podcast. And thank you to those that watched us on the video version and listen to us, as always, for your dedication on the audio platforms. We'll talk to you again very soon for another episode of the Dog Pound Podcast.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.